Uh-oh. What's up, y'all? What's up? It is your boy Sanchez 405. It's on the Warpath. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, Periscope, whatever you want to call it. I can hear myself. Louie and I were talking about echo, so it's good. But y'all, this man to my right needs no introduction. The dean of Washington football team YouTubers here on this platform, Louie Tee, joins me tonight. I can say it's a pleasure. It is an honor to have the GOAT on here, man. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, man, no problem. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to bless the program. And look, man, I see you doing big things over here, man. So I'm excited.
Hey, look, you've been an inspiration, man. You've been an inspiration since you reached out to me. I think it's been about 5 years ago, and it seems like it's went by so fast. Mm-hmm. And you've grown so much in that time too, and it's amazing just to see how we all can win together. Absolutely. And we talk about winning together, and we're gonna dive right up into it. The Washington football team, we have tasted the Kool-Aid of I call it's good tasting flat soda. You were 7-9, mm-hmm. but you made the playoffs. Mm-hmm. We got a taste of a quarterback from who played close to where you live down that way. And now we bring in, I guess, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Let's just start with the quarterback spot. Yep. What in the world is it? What do you expect out of this quarterback spot with Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyler Heineke? Do we see both of them? Do we only see one of them, or could we see three?
If history repeats itself with what these guys have already put forth, the likelihood is we see all three of them, unfortunately. Fitzpatrick, when's the last time he's played a full 16-game slate? Now it's going to be 17. I can't even tell you the last time he's done that. Probably got to go back to that year the Jets went 10-6 and missed the postseason. And you're talking about that's got to be every bit of 2015. And Heineke hasn't finished a game he started in his career. So, or at least finished healthy, I should say, because he did finish the Tampa Bay game, but he left briefly. Mm-hmm. So, he's put on weight. He says it's good weight. We'll see. I think we will see Ryan Fitzpatrick week 1. I do expect him to win the job because even though it's a competition, I really think that, they're going to give Ryan Fitzpatrick every opportunity to be the guy and lead this team into the 2021 season. Now, where it goes from there is anybody's guess. What Ryan Fitzpatrick will we get? Will we get 50-50, as I like to call them? 50% chance to keep you in the game, 50% chance to keep the other team in the game? Or are you going to get, Fitz magic, as everybody likes to call them? And or is it Fitz tragic? And so you just don't know from week to week, honestly. 1 week he's, 27 of 39 for 423 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And you're like, this guy is awesome. And then the next week, he's 28 of 45 for, 295 and 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. Yeah. You're like, this guy stinks. So you just don't really know what you're going to get. But we're all along for the ride. That's for sure. We're all invested.
I always say it like this. I've been using the Pulp Fiction reference, but now I've went to the Sixth Sense. The first time you figure out Bruce Willis is dead, it surprises you. You watch the movie 16 times in a row, you ain't going to be surprised 17 times in a row. Right. We know what Fitzpatrick is, and I think there is I hate to say a disease amongst our fandom that's like, this guy is going to be, he's going to be the truth. I said, what have you seen? They're like, he did good in Miami. He played in 7 or 9 games last year. It was not a full season. And then you add on one more game to it. I don't see how that translates into success for this year. Uh-oh.
No, you good.
Oh, okay. I thought we had lost you for a second.
I'm gonna try to keep us. I'm gonna try to keep us in the game, man. I told you I'm trying to get technical difficulties. I'm gonna try to keep us in the game tonight, man. So look, I've had the same issues with the fans. They don't seem to want to acknowledge the first 15 years of his career. They just want to talk about last year, or for some fans the last 2 years. Oh, he's been trending in the right direction the last 2 seasons. And I'm like, that's cool, but it's still not a full body of work. We still haven't seen it over the course of a full 16 games, now 17, in consecutive weeks. You know, you could talk about 5 starts from one season, 7 starts from another season, and you want to put that together and piece together a picture of what you think you can get. But this isn't week in, week out, consistently seeing him do this at a high level without the mistakes. You want to believe, but like you said, I've seen the movie 16 times. I know how this movie ends.
Right.
So I'm hoping for a different ending. Maybe this is the director's cut or something like that. You know, I'm hoping that there's some things I haven't seen before, but I think I've seen this movie before already.
I mean, yeah, and I like it this way. You know, we've seen the director's cut. There's only so many times you can remake Saw. But, you know, we talk about this quarterback controversy, and I don't know what Washington has with it, but the competition is more what I'm looking at. I don't even believe, and I might be wrong, I don't believe this is really an actual quarterback competition. This is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, this may be puppet string showing you, hey, this is what it's going to look like. But I think there's no doubt in my mind, Ryan Fitzpatrick is QB1, and barring injury or some cataclysmic collapse.
I'm with you. And I think that's the thing. Another thing the fan base really doesn't want to hear. And Ron himself has kind of painted the picture of, hey, I messed up last year with Dwayne. I didn't have a quarterback competition. And so I'm going to make sure that there's a competition. I messed up last year. I'm going to right my wrongs this year by making sure that there's actually a competition. I think it's coach speak. I think he's saying all the right things. He told Taylor Heineke when he signed him that we're going to give you a chance to compete. And so he wants to do right by all of those guys that's involved. But he also wants to make it seem as if this is a legitimate competition. But I think in his mind, he's already made up who the quarterback's going to be. Now, again, things could change. And as you mentioned, you know, an epic collapse from Ryan Fitzpatrick or something, you know, unforeseen could happen. And we could find ourselves with Taylor Heineke, the 4-car, driving, you know, us to wherever we're going to go this year. But for right now, I think he's going to give Ryan Fitzpatrick every opportunity to be the guy. And you know what? At this point, I mean, what do we have to lose, honestly?
Everything. Everything. Shout out to the Juice Alert. What's up, Juice? Washington has a very talented roster. With that said, no flying under the radar. Can they handle expectations? Time will tell. QB play is crucial in capital letters. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Another GOAT on here as well in these YouTube streets. So, yeah, I think Juice makes a great point there that the expectation, and with Fitzpatrick, we've seen it. Expectations high, performance bad. No expectations. Let's raise it up. I'm going top shelf liquor. Right. So get me that Tito's, not that or give me the Patron, not the Tito's. But you know, we kind of switch over now, and
we're trying to stay away from the Burnett's, man.
Yeah. Oh God. Ooh, Lord. That's the Roy the girl bad. We're not trying to get that tragic right there. Well, they might have did that at Harvard back in 2005. That might have been the drink of choice.
That might have been the drink of choice.
I said, you know, I said something about the quarterback controversy, and where, if anything, could this rank in like the all-time quarterback controversies in this city? Because we've had a lot. A lot of people are trying to make this into like Billy and Sonny. I think you're getting more of Grossman and Beck instead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not at that level. It's not as bad. Obviously, that was as bad as it gets. But I think there is a middle ground between maybe Kirk and Robert Griffin III and Beck and Grossman. I think there's a middle ground somewhere in there where you find yourself with this one. You can't really be excited about this, honestly. I mean, the only exciting outcome for most fans would be if Taylor Heineke somehow came out of this thing victorious, but that's not going to happen. A lot of fans have already, you know, reconciled their brain that Fitzpatrick is going to be the guy. I am one of those fans. I did not want him here from the beginning. I've said that a million times. I've been very adamant about that this entire offseason, which is why I continue to pump the brakes and drive slow this offseason, because as much as I want to be excited, and I'm really excited. This is the most excited I've been about this organization, not just the team going into the season, but the organization and the health of the organization since probably Gibbs 2.0. And even the organization wasn't healthy then. It was just off the strength of Joe that we were excited. But I mean, they were going out and signing Anton Randall and Adam Archuleta and Jeremiah Trotter and all of these guys that were past their primes, bringing them into Washington. So it's not like the organization was actually healthy. Vinny was still in the building then, but you just thought we were going to win because of Joe. And this is the first time in a long time that the organization is being actually run by real adults. And we feel like this thing is going in the right direction. But I did a video last week essentially saying that this is a Super Bowl ready roster.
Right.
But it's not ready to take that next step. The window isn't open because we don't have the answer at quarterback.
Yeah, I think a great point, and keeping up with some housekeeping here too. Asan, Armand, what's up? Nati, AM Hunter, Big Simple, B Nizzle, Brad, what's up? Who else got Red Wings up in here? Gus, OG up in here. Chris, what you doing, man? How you doing there? And Franklin's up in here. Rogers up in here. Everybody is up in here. And if y'all got a question for us you want us to answer, just make sure, just say Ask Warpath, hashtag Ask Warpath, and we'll get that question answered for you, so I can keep up with this, because y'all know how it is. But I thought you made a great point. I have not been more proud. I've always been supporting this organization, but I've never been more proud of where this organization is than right now. Now, there's still a lot of things that got to work out, and some of the people that I've talked to on this channel, they make you believe that this is going in the right direction. I think I was listening to, I talked to Pete Medhurst yesterday. He talked about on his show, simple things that they do at the Taste of FedEx Field. People come up to you saying hello. They didn't do this stuff. And now you're seeing us being covered in the media and everything in a positive light. I mean, I don't. Who, in your eyes, who do you think gets credit for that?
I think it's a bevy of people that get the credit. You got to start with Jason Wright. You know, what he's doing on the business side of things, marketing and things of that nature. He's done a really good job of kind of reshaping the image of the organization. He's not alone in that. He's had help, and you know, you got to. I hate saying this, but I never thought I would say this, but you have to give Daniel Snyder some credit for kind of removing himself from the situation and allowing the people that he's paying to do their job, because you got to understand that he's giving them the autonomy to say, hey, who are we going to hire for this position? Because let's face it, Washington's been out in front of this minority, you know, storm that we've seen take over the NFL, that they're hiring female this and first black that and Latino this and first woman Latino this and that. And they're doing all of these things to try to change their image. And, you know, Ron has done it on the football side of things, coming in, turning over the front office, getting all the people in there that he believes will help build this thing into a winner. And Jason Wright on the other side, the financial side, the business side, has really done a great job of marketing this organization and helping change the way that they're viewed, the perception of what Washington football team is all about. So I think there are a lot of people that have their hand in this. I mean, even down to the social media team. Even though they can be, for me, a bit annoying at times. But I love what Julie and the whole crew are doing over there, man. They're doing some really good things, and they're being lauded and praised for a lot of things. I mean, we saw the first day of school signs that they had them put together. That was a big hit, not just locally, but nationally. It was getting attention. So everything that they're doing right now is the right thing. It seems like they're pressing all of the right buttons. It feels like.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like they're hitting on all cylinders. The only thing in most years, I would say I want to see when the adversity hits. You live through COVID. You live through coach having cancer, making a play. You live through the rebirth of Alex Smith, and you come out kind of smelling not like roses, maybe daffodils. You kind of cheap, but you smell like that. And we talk about Ron Rivera, and Ron Rivera's forte is linebacker. and I'm gonna move into the draft here because one of the man that's headlining this thumbnail, Jamin Davis, him and Jack Del Rio found their guy, and I was watching some of your takes. Athletic, fast. Does this guy? How big of an impact is this cat going to make on this defense, and especially the worst part of the defense in a lot of folks' minds at the linebacker spot? What will he do for Washington in 2021?
Well, it's definitely a wild card. You don't really know. So here's a guy with 1 year of starting experience at Kentucky that technically wasn't even supposed to get that opportunity. His roommate at Kentucky actually, want to say, like, either had a heart attack or a stroke. I think it was a stroke, a really bad stroke. And so he really got thrusted into the starting position because of that. And he took full advantage of it. Now, he had been playing in previous years, but he wasn't a starter. So you're talking about a guy essentially 1 year starting at Kentucky. The draft advisory board told this guy, hey, you should go back to school. You're going to be a 4th or a 5th round pick. You're going to be a day 3 pick at best. And he said, okay, cool. I'm not listening to you. I'm coming out anyway. He blows up his pro day. It forces people to go turn the tape on. And what they found was an athletic dynamo. And what you will find when you go back and watch, because hell, I even dismissed him early on in the process. I had a 4th, 5th round grade on this guy initially. And that was without even hearing from the draft advisory board. I'm just saying, like, okay, he's raw. He's got athleticism and skill, but he's small, this, that, and the third, because he played at Kentucky at about 226, 227. Well, he beefed up to 234 for his pro day. He kept that weight on. He obviously didn't lose any athleticism. He blazed his pro day. He ran a 4.41. And so he's a big guy. He's tall. He's rangy. I don't think he necessarily plays at that 4.41 speed. When you watch him, I don't always see that. But he's plenty fast, trust me, when I tell you this. Excellent ball skills, and I think that's where we're going to feel his impact the most. I think early on, he's going to have to feel his way out, going to have to become a more instinctual linebacker, watch a lot of film, study, understand what offenses are trying to do to him. And that's a learning process, and it's going to be some growing pains there. But he's going to make his fair share of splash plays, whether he's blitzing and getting into the backfield, or he's picking off a pass or making a big play down the field on a knockaway. You're going to feel his presence at certain points of this season, and we're going to know that this guy has first-round talent for sure.
Yeah, I think, when I was kind of looking at some of his highlights, he held his own, especially with the coverage thing. I thought holding his own against Kyle Pitts at Florida, arguably probably the best offensive weapon in the draft. I think that's something that's like where you had the biggest problem at last year. Could not cover tight ends. And I think hopefully that will eliminate that going forward for him. And this draft, and I introduced us to our first game of the night, and I'm going to call it boom or bust. So we'll take the first round pick out of there. And who will be the biggest boom? So who will win the Kam Curl Boom of the Year award for the rookies this year?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Sand. That's a tough one, man. Oh man, right off the bat. So I've got my number one candidate right now is De'Ami Brown. I just feel like there's such high hopes and expectation for him. And even though we feel like we're extremely deep at receiver, there's still enough opportunities to go around for him to have a massive impact on the offense. Another guy that I would not sleep on is John Bates, the tight end. I really like John Bates a lot, man.
I love it.
That was probably the guy I was most excited about. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think there's a lot of untapped potential in John Bates. I really do. And then if we're going if we're actually reaching in the Kam Curl bag and going into the 7th round, Shaka Toney is a name to not dismiss either. I got you.
I love that John Bates one, and I guess the tight end gods are going to get. Now I looked at John Bates's draft profile, and I think people get me misconstrued when I say this. I say if you look at his draft profile, it compares to George Kittle. Not saying he's George Kittle, but a lot of the issues that people saw, like these folks on NFL.com may have saw on his draft profile, had the same thing with John Bates. Now, I know he may look more like a Chris Cooley type. I think Tim said that he looks more like Kyle Rudolph. But I just said there is something about this kid who was a state track athlete in Oregon. Well, I don't know how fast these people be running unless it's to the weed shop. I don't know, but I think that I like John Bates a lot, and I think he's going to be something good. And dear God, I mean, if he catches two balls, he's already automatically better than your favorite tight end. So sprinkle me. But anyway, speaking of sprinkle, we'll talk about who wins the Sprinkle Bust Award out of this rookie class.
So I don't want to put that on anybody. I'm like, once you become a family member, I'm rooting like hell for you. I don't. So I won't throw anybody out there, but I think the expectations are going to be really high for Samuel Cosmi as a round pick. And the honest to God truth is he doesn't actually have to play in his rookie season. Like, there's a realistic possibility that Charles Leno Jr. is your starting left tackle and that Cornelius Lucas is your starting right tackle.
They're true.
I mean, I think they're going to give, just like Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think they're going to give Samuel Cosmi every opportunity to win the right tackle job because that's what they drafted him to do. But there's no guarantee that that's where he's going to end up. And, I know it's OTAs and I don't want to put too much stock into it. And I always tell people it's OTAs, people. Relax. Right. But, that was your starting offensive line. Your starting offensive line from left to right was Charles Leno Jr., left tackle. Left guard was Wes Schweitzer. Center, of course, Chase Roulier. Right guard, of course, Brandon Sheriff. And right tackle was Cornelius Lucas. So, that's not necessarily how it's going to be come training camp, and that's not necessarily how they're going to start it off on the depth chart, but that could be a little bit of a window into what they're thinking the offensive line may be start of the season. So
and shout out to Armand for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Question is, if Trent can take Ravens to the Super Bowl and Rex can take the Bears to the Super Bowl and lose, and Garoppolo and lose, why not Fitz? We got more weapons than he's ever had. I'll let the guests take that one. I'll let Louie take that question first because I think I think you can go a whole lot of directions with this one.
Yeah. So I had this come up 11 million times on my show last week, and I actually did a short where I cropped it up and put out a separate video, essentially with people coming, Gibbs, 1.01 with 3 different quarterbacks and, all of that good jazz. Why can't we do it with Fitz? And I'm like, it's a different time. So for one, with the two quarterbacks in particular, let's take Trent Dilfer out of the mix. And let's just talk about Rex Grossman and more recently, Jimmy Garoppolo. Those were elite defenses. Not saying that, we can't get to that status, but we're not there yet. We're not the 2000 and what was it, 2005 Bears. I mean, they were dominant in 05. And in 19, the 49ers were a cut above everyone else from a defensive standpoint. If you're going to win games like that, I mean, remember they came to Washington that year and beat us 9-0 in a monsoon. We couldn't even score a point in that game. They were that dominant that season, and we weren't the only ones they dismantled like that. So if we get to a point where we're doing that to teams, then maybe we can have that conversation. And I said that already, but until we get to that point, it's tough. And I've always said this, you don't have to have an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You just have to have a quarterback that's playing at an elite level. And neither one of those quarterbacks were playing at an elite level. And that's why their teams failed to win the Super Bowl. They got there, and I think the competition wasn't as fierce. I mean, when you look at the NFC that Rex Grossman led the Bears to the Super Bowl in, you can't name another team that was really good that year. I think they beat, if I'm not mistaken, they may have beaten the Saints in the NFC Championship game. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember because the NFC wasn't stacked like it is now. Right. It's a different animal right now, and they're different quarterbacks, different teams that are really good. And, with Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019, that defense was so suffocating. They stifled the Green Bay Packers not once but twice that season in route to the Super Bowl. But when they needed a big play from Jimmy Garoppolo in that Super Bowl, he couldn't deliver. So, so as I was saying, when you look at the dynamic of today's NFL versus yesteryear, it's just a lot tougher to be able to do it without a quarterback that is capable of doing the things that need to be done. And again, if Ryan Fitzpatrick gets hot, he's capable of playing at a high enough level to get you where you want to go. But it's the consistency of it. And that's the thing that people have to understand is you have to be consistent, or you got to have just a flat out dominant defense like the 49ers did and like the Broncos did in 2015 with a one-arm, no-neck Peyton Manning.
Yeah, it's true. And you kind of bring that up. I Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, those were the quarterbacks in those back ends. And then Kerry Collins against the Ravens. None of these guys, these guys are elite talent. Kerry Collins didn't scream elite talent. And then also I will challenge this on the offense side of the ball. Jamal Lewis was the running back for the Ravens. Mm-hmm. The Bears had a two-headed monster in Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Garoppolo had, I think Mostert had his flagship season that year, and behind that offense that Kyle Shanahan, Bobby mm-hmm. Turner, and them have created. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Antonio Gibson is that guy just yet, and if so, who is his number two? Because they've got, like I said, these are some good running. These quarterbacks had good running backs too, but they weren't good. They were slightly average, slightly above average in those years, Garoppolo and Rex. So
that's a great point too, saying is that those teams had heavily relied on the run game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Jamal Lewis had 2,000 that year or not.
Priest Holmes was in that backfield too. That was his last year.
These teams ran the hell out of the football to the point where these quarterbacks mm-hmm. were allowed to just manage the game and not make mistakes. And mm-hmm. I mean, there was a stretch there with that Ravens team. You want to bring up Trent Dilfer. I don't think they scored in like two of those playoff games offensively. It was the defense. I know that Tennessee Titans game they won, I want to say the AFC Championship. I don't think the offense scored a single point in that game. I think the defense scored all of the points in that game, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the only touchdown for them in that game. So, again, the times have changed. You got to be able to if you're not going to have a dynamic pass game and consistency from that position, then you got to be able to run the hell out of the football. And mm-hmm. like you said, I don't know if that's who we are as a team right now.
Yeah, I think that I think we're getting there. And I think that's the one thing. And you're at an interesting crossroads with this team because you don't want to waste this young defensive line, but you don't want to give the farm up to get that one missing piece, which is the quarterback, because you've had opportunities to do that this year, whether you shake the cage with Mr. I'm Offended in Green Bay or Bob Kraft's massage buddy down there in Houston. We just don't know. Right. So I think that's the key is, either quarterback or running back.
For Matthew Stafford too. They just came up empty,
swinging and a miss. And, it's like Eddie Murphy said, you can go out in the desert for so long. And, once you get out there, you taste these crackers. Crackers taste pretty good. But after a while, if you keep on having them, they're going to taste stale. Oh, we just got left with crackers. That's how I felt about Ryan Fitzpatrick. But that's a good question, Armand. So back to our boom bust question. I'll reword it then. Mm-hmm. Who is the jury still out on? That's the better question. I know you said Cosme. Is there anybody else there?
Well, I mean, the jury's out on all these dudes because they haven't played a snap yet. So, the jury's out on every single one of them. But I think how I felt about Benjamin St. Juste when they drafted him. If you guys don't know, I was somewhat disappointed with the pick. Thought there were other directions we could have gone. But from all accounts, this guy's balling. They love him. And I know what Ron is trying to do. You know, he's trying to recreate what he had in Carolina when they drafted James Bradbury. And he wants that long, physical corner that can play against the bigger wide receivers. And now he's got two of them, you know, because they feel like they have that now with William Jackson III. And now Benjamin St. Juste is in the mix. And I was watching a clip where, you know, Chase Young's like, I like that fella. I like that young fella. So, you know, he's growing on me. I still got to see it, though. You know, I still got to see it with my own, too. Because the thing was, the guy had no ball production in college. That was not that he wasn't talented or he couldn't, you know, be there when, you know, at the point of catch. It's just that he didn't have any ball production. But we'll see if he can start turning some of those deflections and PBUs into interceptions.
And let me ask you this too. Now, do you think the St. Juste pickup may have been more of like a moratorium on putting Kendall Fuller on the outside and moving back inside because of like what happened with Mike Evans last year in that playoff game? And I still think he's got harassment charges out on Mike Evans because of what happened. And then you're going to have Devontae Adams and some of these big guys that are going to be playing. You still got these able-bodied receivers. Could that may have been what they were thinking there too? Maybe see if you can get a Richard Sherman type Brandon Browner guy that can just be size up with these big wide receivers.
Absolutely. Ron even said it. He literally said when he was in Carolina, he had to play against Michael Thomas. He had to play against Julio Jones. He had to play against Mike Evans. And he knew that in order to combat that, he needed a long physical corner that could run. And he sees that the Giants just acquired Kenny Golladay. He understands that he's going to be dealing with, if you want to go where ultimately you're trying to get to, you're going to come across these big physical receivers. They're not getting any smaller. You know, the DK Metcalfs of the world are coming. We have him and the Seahawks on the schedule. You're going to play teams like that with these big physical receivers. And if you don't want to play, you know, star coverage, and have your corner have to travel everywhere, if you don't want to have to do that, then you need to have another one on the other side. And to your point, I think they do want to kind of transition Kendall Fuller either inside to slot or back to safety where he was in Kansas City. And honestly, in this league, you got to have at least three really good corners. Everyone's coming out in three wide receiver sets, and the bulk of snaps that you're going to play are going to come out of nickel anyway. So if you don't have at least three dudes that you really feel like can play ball, then you don't have a shot in this league. Honestly.
Yeah. And I think these, like I said, these receivers are coming. Offensive, and if the Eagles can give, they got Waddle, right? So if you give him a sandwich,
they got Devontae Smith.
That's Devontae Smith. That's the skinny one. So if you give him a couple of sandwiches or something, this guy, he could be something very, very strong to be messing with there. And transition off the wide receivers, there's a lot of veterans on the sheet. Last year, we were surprised at some of the cuts. I think in previous years, we were like, oh, we know that guy's getting cut. We know that guy. Oh, that guy's going to stay. So I've got about 6 players that I've kind of looked at and saying, like, where are they going to be at come week 1? Are they going to be on the roster? They're going to be on some kind of a list, practice squad. And I'll start with I think one of the biggest waste of money. I think there's a bigger usage of dope money than this guy, Landon Collins. Where does Landon Collins end up on week 1?
I've read articles where he's not on his football team come week 1.
I have too.
I think that he's going to be on the football team. I think that he's, first of all, if he's healthy, which he's been telling anybody that would listen, he'll be ready for camp and he'll be ready to go full throttle. Then if he's healthy and they like what they see, he's going to be on the football team. If he isn't healthy and they feel like he's taking up a valuable roster spot of a young guy that they would love to keep on the roster, that they feel like they'd have to cut in order to keep him, that's when you could get into a situation where they decide to move on from him. I don't see that happening. If they were going to move on from Landon Collins, I feel like they would have done it already. So I expect him to be on this football team.
Okay, I want you to go through this one without smiling and cracking a smile, because I feel like you may do this.
Okay.
One cornerback, Troy Apke.
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something else.
No. I was waiting.
I love how you phrased that. Cornerback Troy Apke, not safety Troy Apke. It really doesn't matter which one he is. He's getting cut. He would not be on the football team.
And Louie Tee says no more Krapke in Washington. I like that one. We thought we saw flashes of this guy, especially against the Giants in 2019. Had a nice catch in that playoff game. Steve Sims Jr.
Man, I was a massive Steve Sims Jr. fan going into last year, and I really thought he was going to open some eyes, surprise some people, because I was talking to somebody on socials yesterday, and we were talking about how, or it might have been the other day, and we were talking about how it's amazing how far this wide receiver group has come from the start of last year, because I read at least 5 different articles last year that had our group of receivers ranked anywhere from 30th to 32nd in the league. And we were so adamant last year that they're dead wrong, that Steve Sims Jr. is going to step up and Terry's going to take that next step. And he did. Unfortunately, Sims Jr. did not. Kam Sims stepped up. That was a pleasant surprise, but it wasn't enough. We didn't get enough production from our wide receivers. And they were right. They turned out to be right. That was a weak spot on the team. And Sims had opportunity after opportunity, couldn't stay healthy last year. And when he was healthy, he kept dropping the football. And then to make matters worse, he couldn't catch punts. So even if you said, all right, well, at least he gives you something on punt returns, that he would have some value there. He killed that last year as well. So I think it's a numbers game, and he's going to get caught up, unfortunately.
I think he needs to get cut 6 times for that touchdown he gave up against Carolina. That just could let it roll all the way down here.
All the way there,
just throw that pink slip all the way down the hall from Ron's office. What's up, Pedro? How you doing, brother? Kelvin Harmon. What do you think about him?
So
where is he going to be at?
I was a massive Kelvin Harmon fan when he was drafted in the 6th round out of NC State. Thought we got a steal that year. And was looking for big things from him. Obviously, tears the ACL before we even get to training camp. And I think it really stunted all the momentum he had, because we saw flashes in 19 as a rookie. Remember, Ron isn't tied to Kelvin Harmon. And that's the thing you got to understand, is that a lot of these guys that are here, they were Kyle Smith picks. They were guys that Kyle Smith liked, not Ron Rivera. So all of those guys that opted out, Ron could have given them a shot. He cut every single one of them. Like, I don't know you. Remember, Ron came here last year and he said, look, I don't know any of you, so I'm not giving out any extensions. I want to learn who you are first. And Trent got butt hurt with that, because Trent was like, oh, well, I'm not everybody else. You need to call me first. And he's like, look, this is uniform across the board. Brandon Sheriff wants an extension. I don't know him. I'm not giving him an extension. So I think Harmon is kind of in that spot where Ron doesn't know him. Ron said good things about him, but they drafted a big guy that Ron likes in AGG. Now, we didn't see much from him last year, obviously, but that's Ron's guy, not Kelvin Harmon. Kam Sims is now Ron's guy because he showed him last year. When he got an opportunity, he took advantage of it. So Ron has a soft spot for, Kam Sims now. So there are other guys that can fill that big wide receiver role that I just think that there aren't enough spots on the roster for a guy like Kelvin Harmon. We'll see, but I think it's going to be really tough for him to crack this roster, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I didn't write this one down, but you kind of folks just kind of mentioned him, and you mentioned AGG. I went back and looked at it, 'cause I said Ron could probably never let go of a 4th round pick, and after a year. He's done it twice, and it was early on in Carolina. So, and I think the way you're talking, you think AGG may have a shot to be on this roster, not necessarily saying he will be, but has a better shot than Kelvin Harmon.
Correct. I think he has a better shot, but that by no means am I calling him a lock, because I listened to wide receivers coach
Drew Terrell.
Yeah. And he had effusive praise of Kam Sims, called him the glue of the group last year. And it blew me away because he's already talking as if the man's on the roster. He said, I can't wait to see what he does this year, and I think Kam Sims won a lot of people over last season, especially in that Steelers game. Without Kam Sims, we don't win the Steelers game, and that's arguably the biggest game of our season last year. And Sims had a starring role in that performance. So I think Kam Sims right now is the odds-on favorite to join the 4 guys that we assume are locks on this roster already. I think Sims is the next closest to be a lock after that group of 4.
All right, and I'll move to the defense on this one. John Bostic.
Yeah.
You think he's going to be okay?
Oh, yeah, he's on the team.
Yeah.
We don't have enough depth to cut John Bostic at linebacker. I still think linebacker is one of our positions with the least amount of depth on the football team. So they did go out and they got Jared Mayo from Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's a guy Ron's familiar with. They drafted him out of, I want to say it was something state. I can't remember. But he's joining the roster. They still have the guy that was on special teams last year from Carolina as well. But, I mean, these are guys that you really don't – I mean, Mayo is fine if he has to see the field. But Bostic is still, one of the core linebackers on this football team, and he still may even be a starter. And I'm trying to push him out of the lineup desperately. I'm like, Khalid, where you at, man? Step up, please. But at the end of the day, John Bostic is definitely on this football team.
Okay, and I'll give you a who will be a surprise cut.
We've already had one or two of them already. I mean, we saw Morgan Moses coming, right? So anything's possible, man. I think one of the guys you mentioned already could easily be one in Landon Collins, although I don't think it's going to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked if Landon Collins, doesn't make the football team. I think a lot of people are just sure that Jimmy Moreland's going to make this team. I'm not 100% sure Jimmy Moreland. Don't forget they signed Darryl Roberts this offseason. I would not be shocked if, Jimmy Moreland – because Danny Johnson's back, and they brought him back on a deal. So I wouldn't be shocked if, Jimmy Moreland's the odd man out at the cornerback position. When you start looking at other positions, I don't want to say this because he grew on me last year. But Peyton Barber, if they're only keeping 3, I really think they love Jared Patterson, man.
I do too.
So that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. If they're keeping just 3 and they're not sure that they're going to be able to sneak Patterson, especially if he has a strong camp and preseason, hard to think you're going to be able to sneak that guy onto the practice squad. So, because nobody's fighting you over Peyton Barber. If you cut him, you could probably put him on the practice squad, but I don't know if you can do it in the reverse and put Patterson on the practice squad. So that's one to watch. Barber could get cut. But I think he carved out such a big role for himself on the roster last year that I know Ron loves him, and that's one to watch there too.
I mean, you think about Peyton Barber. He seems like he came up in big spots last year. The one play that comes to my mind is in Week 17 against Philadelphia. And he had a couple of gashing runs that really sealed the deal. So I'm not that low on him like a lot of people are. And I honestly, I don't know where all this Peyton Barber hate has come from. But
I think it's less hate and more of love for Jared Patterson, really. Like, this is all Peyton Barber does is pick up 3rd and 4th down conversions.
There was a lot of that last year, but a lot of people were hollering, we need a 3rd down back. We got somebody. We need somebody on 3rd down. And I know you heard that hollering, like, we need somebody on 3rd. It's like, this dude just did that. If he doesn't get his touchdowns in the end zone, they don't beat Philadelphia in Week 1. So
exactly. I mean, how about that 4th down run against Philadelphia to help to score that touchdown? Like, that was all Peyton Barber, man. It was a hell of a run. Like, I said that I can't recall him not picking up a third or a fourth down last year that he was in for third and short. I can't recall one time. Somebody brought up the 2-point conversion, I think, in one of those games. Maybe it was Tampa or something like, okay, cool. But I don't recall a third or a fourth down. When they put him on the field, he came through every single time. It was uncanny. I'm like, I never had that much confidence in a player at any position in a specific role. Like, since Pierre Garçon on like 3rd and 6. All right, throw it to Pierre. No matter what, he's going to get the first down. That's how I felt about Peyton Barber last year. Like, it's 3rd and 2. Okay, give it to Peyton Barber. Yeah. It's 3rd and 1. It's 4th and 1. Give it to Peyton Barber. There were times I'm screaming at Scott Turner. We're down at the goal line, and he wants to do everything but give it to Barber. I remember the Steelers game. We go down there, and it takes – I don't think he ran it with Barber one time, and we end up getting the penalty on 4th down and get a fresh set of downs. And in the first play, he gives it to Barber, and he scores a touchdown. I'm like, you should have did that the first time.
You big dummy. That's and I can't – I just thought about this sitting there thinking about it. He had a big run against Dallas on Thanksgiving too. So let me see. I got a couple of super chats. Oh my goodness. My boy Third Down. Longest Spanish Jesus. Steven Montez makes the roster, beating out Kyle Allen. I'm good. Spanish Jesus. Jesus Cristo. And do you think this is muy bueno or no?
It's no good. It's no good.
I said, stop the cap.
No
there,
bueno. No bueno.
Thank you for the super chat. Third Down. Red Wing asks, Barber was teammates with Fitz in Tampa, which could help his case. Running back room is going to be interesting. By the way, 2-point attempt was against Seattle.
Okay. Gotcha. I know somebody had brought up the 2-point conversion. I don't recall it, but I trust you guys that that it happened.
Yeah. Hey, and thank you so much for the super chat too, Red Wings. Thank you. Let's see here. And on this day that we celebrate the firing of Scott Brooks, we will who is going to be I guess I'll ask this one here as we get ready to wrap up. I got about 3 more questions for you. I'm asking you to set us the Louie Tee dinner plate special.
Okay.
And you put in the bib on come training camp. What are you ready? What position battle? What players are you ready to sink your teeth in and say, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good."
Oh man, I got a vegan burger with my name on it. It's succulent, it's juicy. I can't wait. It's the wide receiver position, man.
Get the liquid smoke out. Somebody's getting burned on the receivers.
It's the wide receiver position. We talked about it already ad nauseum. That's the position that has the most interest, the most juice going into camp, where you're like, okay, it's more likely than not 6 spots. And there are about 10 legitimate guys vying for 6 spots. 4 of them are probably already spoken for, barring any kind of catastrophe. So essentially, you've got 6 guys vying for 2 spots. That's going to be an interesting debate there in position to watch. Obviously, the left side of the offensive line is wide open. You throw in right tackle too. I mean, we could talk all about the receivers and the running back position all we want, but if the big guys up front aren't getting it done, none of that stuff even matters. So we got to figure out left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. So those positions are going to be massive battles. To me, you probably even need to put those one over the receiver battle. But I think the more exciting. So Ron says what's important and what's interesting. I think receiver is interesting. Offensive line is important.
Yes.
So I think that battle of the left side of the offensive line and the right tackle position are definitely worth keeping an eye on. And then, as I just mentioned, running back, that last running back spot is what are they going to keep 4? Or are they going to cut off, trim a bit of fat off somewhere else to keep a 4th back? Or are they going to just go with 3? I think the assumption is they're just going to go with 3. They never had more than 3 backs on the roster last year. So I don't anticipate them. And even running backs coach Randy Jordan already said, we keep it 3. Now, he could have just been blowing smoke, but I think Randy Jordan is essentially telling us, no. That's the move. It's 3 dudes. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think if you go to the defensive side of the ball, I don't really know if there's any real position battles necessary. I'm looking at, Are you keeping 4 or 5 safeties is a question that I ask. I'm not really sure what they do there. I think they're going to keep 5 corners. The linebacker position, we don't have a ton of depth, so it's nobody there like, oh my God, is this guy going to make the roster? I think what will be interesting on the defensive line is what they do at the end, because obviously you got Sweat, you got Young. I think they really like James Smith-Williams. I assume he's going to be on the football team. Are you keeping 4 or are you keeping 5 defensive ends? Because if you're keeping 4, then the real question becomes Casey Toohill, or are you going to keep, the 7th round draft pick Shaka Toney? And then don't forget about, William Bradley King, because that's another guy that they really liked when they drafted him out of Baylor. So are you keeping 5? If you're keeping 5, then Casey Toohill and William Bradley King kind of come, because I think Shaka Toney's making his football team.
Right.
4 or 5, it doesn't matter. I think he's making the football team. So if it's 5, then you ask yourself, well, is it Casey Toohill or is it William Bradley King? And I really think Bradley King is a guy that'll probably be a candidate for the practice squad.
And I think when you look at William Bradley King, the only person that I got right on my mock draft.
You mocked him to Washington?
Yeah, I mocked him to Washington.
Oh,
yeah.
You deserve some money for that.
Yeah, I mocked him to Washington. It was the only one I got right. So he is
wow.
He's my guy. I got him because this was before the trade. So I think I got him at the pick that Miami actually decided to pick at. But you got to go. Hey, I got to find my guys from Ed Oliver's group. It's in there, so I can send that to you. But I think that he has a good opportunity to be on the practice squad. But I think he's an underrated pass rusher. You look at what he did at Arkansas State, and where he was like an all-conference Sun Belt player, and then he was really just like a grad GA playing that last spot in Baylor last year, where he just couldn't deal with that upper elements. And I want Chase Young to learn something from him, because apparently his moves are so underrated. And kind of the knock on Chase is that sometimes he only has one move. So some people say that, but I think that I think William Bradley King can help him out as well in there. And I like your point about the offense line. I say it's being smart over being sexy. And sometimes you got to be smart before you get sexy. So get that line situated, then you can deal with the wide receivers. Right. And you're going to need these protections the way our quarterbacks broke down. I don't think have you noticed this? This will be the 5th consecutive year, I believe, that Washington will have a different opening day starter.
And you probably are right. So let's go through the exercise since you just brought it up. So it doesn't matter who starts this year; it's going to be different than last year, obviously. Last year was Haskins.
Keenum.
So in 19, it was Case Keenum.
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith was in 18.
Kirk Cousins
was in 17.
I got 5 on it.
You got 5 on it.
We're going to get sued here in a minute. So I'll ask you this just at a high level. 2-parter. Your record prediction, and give me 3 non-NFC East games that you're looking forward to.
Okay. So the prediction, I'm not gonna give that out now.
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
Later on in the summer, I still really haven't really wrapped. I've just thrown out 9 and 8. That is because I just can't see Ryan Fitzpatrick leading us to double-digit wins. But I waffle on these things all the time. We get to late summer, I like what I see, and all of a sudden I'm on the 11 and 5, 11 and 6, here we come. So we'll see what happens. But as far as 3 non-division opponents, they're all going to be test games where I want to see measuring stick games. Obviously, Kansas City.
Right.
That's one that sticks out for me as a big game. Seattle, there's some get back there. I want to beat the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sick and tired of the Seahawks. Even though I brought up the 2017 improbable win, Josh Doxson diving catch down to the one in that game. But still, we should have beat Seattle last year. I don't even know if that should make the list or not. I'm trying to play out all these games in my head. Obviously, you have Green Bay. Don't know if that's going to include Aaron Rodgers or not. That'll be a big game to see where we are as well. We play the Buccaneers again. That is going to be interesting. That's going to be a measuring stick game as well to see where we are against the defending Super Bowl champions. And that's 3 right there. But there's so many good quarterbacks. Buffalo, going to be a tough one. So there's so many good games on the schedule because we play so many good quarterbacks this year. So, I'll probably say Buffalo with Allen, Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then I would also say Brady and the Bucks. Those would be the 3 that stand out for me.
Benchmarker games galore right there. And a lot of people joked on this defense. They said, well, you didn't play a lot of good quarterbacks. Defense will get tested with these quarterbacks next year. And we got about 5 minutes to go here. So I'm going to ask you this. It's from somebody who verbally assaulted me. Kidding. But Kevin Sheehan, he always asks Washington wins if. Washington wins the NFC East if. And you give me three points on there.
Washington wins the NFC East if they get, number one, they get steady, consistent, good play out of the quarterback position, no matter who is behind center. Whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick or it's Taylor Heineke or it's Kyle Allen, it doesn't really matter. As long as they're getting steady, consistent play out of that group, or you want it to be one guy really, but whatever happens, that's going to go a long way. 2, they have to be dominant defensively. There's no way around that. They can't have a mediocre defense because then you're asking the offense to win shootouts on a consistent basis, especially when you look at the schedule that we'll be playing this year. I'm not saying we gotta dominate these offenses because that's not going to happen, but you do have to slow them down enough to give your offense a chance. You don't want to find yourself every week in a 37-34 shootout. We're not going to end up on the right side of a lot of those. So defensively, we've got to be who we say we are. We talk about top 5 this and top that. Well, we got to show up. And when these games get tough, rough and rugged, they got to show up and be the catalyst. So the quarterback position has to be consistent throughout. And we got to also have the defense step up. That's number 2. And then number 3 for me is we can't beat ourselves. We're not good enough to do that. So Dustin Hopkins can't miss a kick every game. We can't have Dustin. Oh, he got his kick out of his system. So he should be good now. Like, we're going to be playing a lot. Somebody on my show said we're in a lot of tight ball games this year. We're going to win them with all the good teams we're playing. I don't expect too many of these fourth quarter.
Right.
Run out the clock and get out of here with a dub. It's going to be a lot of nail biters, edge of your seat thrillers where an extra point missed, a missed field goal in the second quarter comes back to haunt you, and you lose a game that you had an opportunity to win. So I think special teams is going to have to be big. We can't have penalties and the mistakes. Like, Chase had the big mistake at the end of the Lions game. That
God.
us. Like, those kind of mistakes, you get those out of the way as a rookie. We can't have those types of mistakes. We can't beat ourselves. We got to place, and usually this is a hallmark of a Ron Rivera coach team. He usually has a team that doesn't beat itself. It's usually well coached, and we didn't have a ton of penalties. If you recall last year, coming from where we came from as a very penalized team, we were actually really disciplined last year, and that has to continue if we're going to win this division.
Oh yeah, old fidgety Morgan Moses. I think he had his lowest count. He had his lowest counts of the year, and absolutely. He played his best ball and he still got cut. Shout out to PIMP. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hail to the W. Yes, hail to W.
Right. That's right.
And then Rolando says superhero team up going up on here. I'm more like Alfred the Butler, but I got Batman over here with that.
Don't do that.
Corey and Louie Tee, do you guys really believe Fitzpatrick will be the week 1 starter? I think you and I both agree that's going to be the truth. By hook or crook, I see Heineke winning this job. Best to both of you. Thank you so much for that $10 super chat. Yeah. But yeah, I think you and I are on the same page. It's going to be Fitz unless something crazy happens. I mean, like this is going to have to be like he beat up his mama bad if he's going to if he's not going to be the starter here. Right. So, and then we've got Red Wings asked a question. Oh, here we go. Armand asked one more question, so I'll out here and we'll get right out of here after these two questions. Are we going to extend Brandon Sheriff and Jonathan Allen?
Mm-hmm. So Allen is definitely getting the extension.
Yes.
Now, Sheriff, on the other hand, like I said, he has no desire to sign an extension right now and no reason to, and I don't blame him. The man is making $18 million this year. He's not going to make that in an extension. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he would get more from an extension from a guaranteed money standpoint, but he can get 2 bites at the apple, get the 18 this year, and then sign a big lucrative deal next year. So why shortchange yourself $18 million this year when you can get the 18, come back and double dip next year and get a 5-year $2 million deal or 5-year $96 million deal next year. So Sheriff has no desire to sign. I don't blame him. He's going to get a massive 4 or 5-year deal next year with a bunch of guaranteed money. It may be here. Don't discount that it won't, but it may not be here.
Yep, and I always say about Brandon Sheriff, he's like that car. You go up Route 1, and there these used car dealerships like, dang, that's a nice Camaro right there. Oh, it's got a lot of mileage on it. Oh, guess what? It also was caught in a flood in Omaha about 2 years ago. That's exactly what Brandon Sheriff is. But I agree. I
think check the Carfax.
Yeah, you better check the Carfax don't even exist, Lou. They didn't scratch the VIN number off of it. That's what they call all proism right there. Jonathan Allen, yes. Brandon Sheriff, no. And honestly, I wish they could have gotten something for him in that situation. Last question. Red Wing asks, do you think the pressure will be on our developmental DNs to develop and perform since we don't have Ryan Kerrigan to step in and provide high-level play if Chase or Montez goes down? I ask you this too, and Ryan Kerrigan going to Philadelphia as well. Your thoughts?
So I do think there will be a bit of an emphasis to, find another guy. There's been a lot of questions by the media aimed at, are you going to go out and get a veteran? And Ron has had to essentially defend himself. Like, no, we tried in the offseason, and Martin Mayhew said, look, nobody wanted to come here.
Right.
They knew they weren't going to play a lot behind Chase and Montez. So it was hard for us to find a veteran that was willing to sign up to get whatever table scraps were left in terms of playing time. So they knew they had to find young guys that they could develop. And, obviously they already had James Smith-Williams from last year and Casey Tuhill. They went out, they signed Shaka Toney or drafted Shaka Toney and William Bradley King. And so I think they're looking for one of those guys to step up. I'm adamant it's Shaka Toney that's going to step up. But I think there will be a little bit of pressure, just in case something were to happen, God forbid. But, you just want to be prepared. And honestly speaking, I think we're going to be just fine in terms of depth. I think we'll find that we got some dogs back there backing those guys up. As far as Kerrigan is concerned, you're fooling yourself if you think that Kerrigan didn't go to Philadelphia because there was a little bit of animus there. Like, oh yeah, he was a little bit taken back by the fact that Ron was pretty much blunt with him after the season and said, hey, we're going in a different direction, because my initial thoughts were, well, Ryan wanted out, Ryan wanted to go where he could get more playing time. And then to listen to Ryan pretty much say, well, they didn't even give me the opportunity to say I didn't want to come back or I did want to come back. They just pretty much told me, which, players, they respect that. They want to know where they stand. And Ron pretty much told him at the end of the season, hey, we really appreciate what you did for us this past year, but we're going in a different direction. So I think he was hurt by that. So he could have went and played for the Steelers. They were definitely interested. They're in a better place to try and win now. He chose the Eagles because I think he wants to see Washington twice a year. There's a little bit of that in there, and he's going to say all the right things because he's a good dude. But is there something left in the tank? Sure. Yeah. Is he dominant? No, and he never has been. And I know that hurts to hear from a lot of Washington fans. He's a really good player. He owns the Washington all-time sack record. So a really good player for a really long time on a franchise that for a long time didn't have a face. He was
right.
the face. You know, when we couldn't trot out a quarterback like everybody else and say, hey, look at us. We couldn't trot out a big name receiver or a big name running back. We had Ryan Kerrigan. He was the rock, you know. So salute to all he's done. He'll come back one day. We'll put his name in the Ring of Fame. And at the end of the day, I wish him nothing but the best, except for 2 times a year when he plays us. Other than that, go kick Dallas's ass. Go beat up on the Giants. Go do what you do best, bad quarterbacks, and have a blast doing it. Just don't do it to us.
That's right. And you know, what's good for Art Monk and what's good for Brian Mitchell, I think it can be good for Ryan Kerrigan, 2 former Philadelphia Eagles. If y'all, if some folks don't remember that, but
Gary
you know,
Clark went to the Cardinals.
Yeah, Gary back in the old NFC East. Yeah, he sure enough did. So, and Gary Clark grew up watching the team. So, you know, but I'm kind of like Ryan Kerrigan. I was like, I wanted to root for him. And then I'm like, I said, when he went there, you know, he did this midnight answer. He like did this midnight post. I remember I was sitting somewhere in the hometown of Thomas and Julius Jones. And I said, damn, I have to go do a video now. And got that. I said, what guy does this? And then I said, it all makes sense now. That's why I did it. That's exactly why I did it. Monday morning, we went off. But to your point about to Ryan Kerrigan, I've always had this knock on him. What was his biggest third down sack that you can recall?
Now he's made some big plays, but there isn't a big third down sack. I mean, I think there was one against like the Vikings in a random regular season game that clinched it for us. There were, you know, one time where he beat up on Big V when he was like a rookie and he had like 3 sacks in that game and the Eagles were driving late and he sacked, I want to say Nicholas Foles was the quarterback that year and that preserved a victory. I think that might have been in 2015. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there isn't one defining sack, but you know what? I lied.
Dallas. I think Dallas 18.
Dallas in 2018 with the Preston Smith scoop and score. That's his defining moment in Washington. That's the one I will always, and I said that on my show, that's the one I will always remember. I don't think I've ever heard FedEx Field louder than that, other than the 2012 finals regular season finale against Dallas. When we beat them, when Rob Jackson picked off Tony Romo, the place went nuts. But that place was rocking that day. Yeah. And it was right at the corner, right down by the end zone. And Preston scoops it up and walks in. And it reminded me of the NFC Championship game in 83.
Oh, Daryl Grant.
Daryl Grant scooping it up. And going in, well, not scooping it up, catching the interception and rumbling in the end zone. So
seen that big 77 just take it to the house.
That's what that felt like. You know, Dallas down close towards the end zone and a touchdown to kind of seal it. So that'll always be a big memory. But you know, that's his move. That's the one.
I think mine also outside that Dallas one, his debut in the NFL picked off Eli Manning because I broke my foot on a wall in my dorm when I was in college because I think Rex Grossman had did something stupid. So I won't forget that either. But and one thing else I won't forget is the time that you have spent with me and all of us here today. Jarris says, I hope Fitzpatrick loses the starting job. Might not happen there.
Don't bank on it.
Yeah. Isn't Sheriff taking a huge gamble not getting a torn ACL bicep tear by playing under the franchise tag? Pretty risky. Thanks for the super chat, Rolando. Yeah, but you know, I mean, he always comes in. He always is good for a month on the injury report. So it is what it is there.
Yeah, and sure, it's a risk. That's why players don't like the franchise tag because they want the long-term guarantee and security of knowing if anything happens, I got this guaranteed money. There's nothing you can do. I'm secure. Whereas a franchise tag is just a 1 year, essentially a rental. And if something goes awry, there is no long-term guarantee. But in the case of Brandon Sheriff, he made a bunch of money last year, like $15 million last year. He's making an additional, like that's $33 million before Uncle Sam dips his hand in. That's $33 million, total in 2 years. I'm pretty sure he'll take that. And even if something were to occur, you don't think somebody would sign Brandon Sheriff next year? May not be as lucrative, may even be a 1 year prove it deal. But
he's an all-pro. He's an all-pro. He has that tag now.
There you go.
And it comes with the real estate now.
Yes, sir.
I don't I hear you, Chris. You don't have time to watch them picks. The only thing I'll say about this is I don't want to hear sports talk radio with Ryan Fitzpatrick say, why did he make that throw on third down? I can hear Kevin Sheehan in the morning. Why? I don't know. I was watching Ryan and excuse me. Here we go. I'll do my Kevin Sheehan real quick before we go. I don't understand. Ryan was he did this throw and what are you doing? I was sitting there on my couch. Kevin, we saw it out. We've seen it all the time. So, but anyway,
and he's excited. He's excited about this fact.
Yeah, I know. And I said, I told Travis Thomas and them, I said, look, I will come on here and apologize. It's okay to be wrong. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. If we're wrong, we're wrong.
Right.
I'm wrong at least 10, 20, 30 times.
If this long enough, you're going to be wrong. And I tell people all the time, you know where to find me. I'm not running. I'm not hiding.
Exactly.
You know where you're going to find me at. Shoot. I told you when I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first to tell you when I'm right.
Exactly.
So when I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first to tell you. I'm not going to run from it.
Hey, and I know you got a strong woman at home. I got a strong woman. So you wake up in the morning automatically, just being wrong. You just, what did you do? Would you step wrong? You always, that's what it is. But Lou, I appreciate you, brother, so much for coming on here. The Dean of Washington football YouTubers. Nobody's been doing it longer on the Burgundy and Gold than Louie Tee. And for him to take this time, I appreciate you, sir. And y'all know where to find the guy. I'm pretty sure the only reason why folks came over here was to see this man.
Don't do that. I'm not going to let you shortchange yourself, man. You starting to gain some traction, man. You got some real pull in the game now, man.
Hey, I
see these guests you over here pulling, man.
Who
you over here doing?
That's my twin brother. That's my twin brother.
You can't do that. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes. Let me see what you're doing over here, man.
Hey, man, we having a good time, and that's the one thing. If you don't, I always remember talking about this. It becomes monotonous when you stop having fun.
Right.
And I know you haven't stopped having fun. Mm-hmm. I haven't stopped having fun, and this is the best thing about it. And I think it's it's humbling to be on here with folks. Mm-hmm. So, thank you,
man.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes. Yeah. Lord, I'm saving up everybody knows I'm saving up all my cuss words for September when I'm sitting here doing these daggone lives. And I'm just like, what the flim flam, filth, flarn, and filth. That's all it is. But y'all, for Louie Tee over here, there we go. There he is right there. I still haven't mastered this. I'm Sanchez 405. Love, peace, and hail. Appreciate all y'all coming through here. Talking to you real soon, y'all. We are